Now, if you followed my channel, you know I've been less than enamored with the Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Ultra, the Book 4 Pro lineup here for 2024. While I like its premium build, I like its gorgeous AMOLED displays, I like a lot that they do have to offer, the thin and light nature of these devices, the premium nature of these devices, but they skimped on the little things here and there, like no haptic touchpad or a lot of screen wobble, or there's a lot of glare and reflection on the displays. Things like that just really irk me, especially at the high price point that they came in at. Here things change a little bit. In fact, this probably is going to be my favorite Samsung Galaxy Book 4 laptop here for 2024. Yes, I'm talking about the brand new Galaxy Book 4 Edge running the Snapdragon X Elite, and I think going to that processor has solved a number of issues, such as battery life, such as the fact that it runs cool and quiet, the fact that it's so thin and light, and it has a gorgeous AMOLED display. Yes, it's that same dynamic AMOLED 2X display we've been seeing, but one thing I noticed here, it's a little less reflective, there's less screen wobble, it just seems a little bit better. Maybe Samsung is finally waking up, and the fact that they're pairing this with a cutting-edge new processor, the ARM-based processor, the Snapdragon X Elite, we're seeing excellent single-core, multi-core performance for doing everyday tasks, and guess what? Really no fan noise when you're doing those tasks. And guess what? It doesn't overheat. There's no jet engine taking off when you're trying to do any little task like you would see before. It stays cool and quiet. And that's one of the benefits of that really new great processor. Of course, it's not without its issues. There are still bugs that need to be ironed out. But I think for the most part here, as we launch this product, it's really good. In fact, I've been picking it up quite a bit and using it, and I realized, wait a minute, where's the fan noise? Why is this not overheating? And why does this just seem so good? And that's pretty much a telltale sign that this is a very promising device. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is my first look review at the Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Edge running the Snapdragon X Elite here for 2024. Coming up. Now, before we get to the unit itself, I just want to let everyone know, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I'm not being paid by Samsung. I'm not being sponsored by Samsung. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Samsung is not getting copy approval. That means they're seeing this video for the first time, just like you. Now, this unit was purchased with my own money. This is not a review unit from Samsung. Pricing on the Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Edge starts at $1349.99, and that nets you a 14-inch AMOLED display. It's the dynamic AMOLED display, to be specific. It has a 12-core processor, the X1 Elite. It's the X1E 8100 processor that peaks at 3.4 gigahertz. Now, you could also get a 16-inch variant. That's at $1749.99. I'm getting one into the studio to review very soon, so stay tuned. X1E 8400. So it's a little bit more powerful, and I'm looking forward to testing that one out. And as a side note, I pre-ordered mine, so they threw in a 50-inch class Crystal UHD TV, the DU7200. That's a $379.99 value. So I figured I can use another 4K UHD television in my studio, so why not? But you could also go over to Best Buy. It has it for the same price, $1349.99. And for those interested, I will leave links in the description below for more information and where you can buy one. So you know the drill, folks. Let's get this out of the box. And of course, I don't need the knife with this one. This has these tabs. Okay, what does Samsung have up their sleeve here? We got a power charger. Don't ask me what this wattage is. I cannot see. My eyes are terrible, but I'll leave it in the description. And of course, I will put it in the upcoming review. And this says this says super fast charging or something like that there. All right, so pretty compact. We've seen that before. You know, thank God they still even put that in the box. Wow, this thing is thin. I gotta tell you, every time it gets me how thin this thing is. We'll put that to the side for the moment. And we have USB Type-C cable in white. We get some documentation. I don't care about all that. So pretty standard fare. Let's put this to the side. I got to say one thing. It is a pretty laptop, I got to tell you. That is a nice looking laptop. And again, this sapphire blue is pretty gorgeous. I got to tell you, it looks pretty good. And I can't get over how thin this thing is. This is kind of ridiculous. And we can open this. Let's see if we can open this with one finger. Oh, yeah, we can. That's nice. Okay. Now, one thing I want to look for, and was a big pet peeve of mine on the Intel-based units, screen wobble. And I can tell you, it's already better. It's already better. Again, I haven't even turned it on, but it does look promising. All right, with just the unit alone, you're looking at 1.161 kilograms, and that is 2 pounds, 9 ounces. All right, that is pretty good. So it's pretty light. Let's put it back on kilograms. And then with the power brick and this USB-C cable, it does have the paper there, but it's negligible. So you're looking at 1.332 kilograms, and that is 2 pounds, 15 ounces all in. So very thin, very light. So pretty good. Okay, let's check out the port selection. On the left side are 2 USB Type-C 4.0 ports that are full function, supporting data, charge, and display out. Now, moving over to the right side is an HDMI 2.1 port and a 3.5 millimeter microphone headphone combo jack. Now, you don't get a microSD card reader on this one. You don't get USB-A. Now, if you do go with the 16-inch, you do get a microSD card reader and a third USB port. Of course, that is very welcome. But on the 14-inch, you do not get those ports. Now, when it comes to the memory and storage options, it's pretty interesting here. Now, my unit has 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's the LPDDR5X RAM, and it's running at that very fast 8,500 mega transfers per second because it is soldered in. Not upgradable, by the way, by the user. So that is the one that you're going to get. When it comes to the storage, this is a bit disappointing. Now, it's using something called eUFS storage. And as you can see from the reads and writes, not the best I've seen out there, that's for sure. And I wanted to see, well, what is eUFS storage? And it stands for Embedded Universal Flash Storage, a type of NAND flash memory that's used in smartphones, digital cameras, and other consumer electronics. And Samsung decided to put it into this Galaxy Book 4 Edge. What does that mean as the user? Well, you're stuck with what you're getting here. So if you go with 512 gigabytes, since it's embedded, you won't be able to upgrade it. At least that's what I think is the case here. If anybody knows anything different, please let me know. Again, I'm not getting any press material from Samsung or any kind of communication from Samsung, so I'm just flying blind here. But from what I understand, this is not going to be upgradable, and those reads and writes are a bit disappointing. Now, one of the stars of the show has to be this gorgeous 14-inch AMOLED display. And as I mentioned earlier, you could also get it in 16-inch. It has the same resolution whether you go with the 14 or the 16. It's 2880 by 1800, and it's got a variable refresh rate up to 120 hertz, so you get that very smooth, very fluid experience. It also has a 16:10 aspect ratio, which I'm a big fan of. And when it comes to screen brightness, you're looking at 400 nits standard dynamic range and can peak up to 500 nits for HDR. And speaking of HDR, watching high dynamic range content on this has been excellent. I've had no issues. Watching it in Netflix, Amazon, YouTube has been superb. A really excellent display. Now, I can't give you the metrics as far as the coverage of the color gamut or the color accuracy, simply because my colorimeter, the Spider 5 Elite, is not working with it. The drivers don't work with this, and that's been an issue with Windows on ARM because there are no proper drivers. It's not an emulation issue, it's a driver issue. So until I can figure that out, I can't give you the exact numbers, but eyeballing it, looking at it, giving it the eyeball test, it looks really great. And I got to tell you, it's been bright, it's been sharp, it's did everything you'd want in an OLED display or AMOLED display is here. Now, it is a glossy display, but I think they've really done a good job with the anti-glare on this. There's not too many reflections, not as much as before when I looked at the Galaxy Book 4 Ultra and the litany of laptops from that. This one is a lot better, and that's been pretty good. I also see less screen wobble when typing, and that's even better. So we're seeing a big improvement here. The display is pretty fantastic. And here's something you can't do with a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro for that matter: a pinch to zoom or navigating the OS with your finger. Yes, this does have a touch layer, and it was very responsive. So it's a really nice feature to have. Not an essential feature for some, but it's a nice convenience feature to have nonetheless. And they also like the fact that it has a variable refresh rate up to 120 hertz, meaning you can get that very smooth, very fluid experience you get with a very high refresh rate. And it looks great, although at the cost of battery. We'll get into the battery life later on, but spoiler alert, it's actually really good. We'll talk about that soon. So this is the camera on the Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Edge here for 2024. It's running the Snapdragon X Elite that we've been anticipating, of course, and we finally have it here. This is a 1080p camera. What do you think about the video quality? What do you think about the audio quality? Now, one thing to note, like the Galaxy Book 4 series we've seen this year, this is not an IR camera. In order to log in with biometrics, you need to use the fingerprint scanner. The power button doubles as the fingerprint scanner. Worked reasonably well, but no IR camera for those wanting face recognition. No, not here. As far as the studio effects, they're all here. You've got the auto framing, you got the portrait light, which is something new. Again, I showed it on some of the others. I'm not sure quite exactly what it does, but it's there. It also has the background effects, standard blur, portrait blur, okay? You have the auto framing. We've seen it. I don't have to demonstrate it again. And then we also have the creative filters. We have illustrated, watercolor, and animated. Well, I don't really care for them, but, you know, more options there. Now, this is all handled by the NPU. Remember, this has 45 tops as far as the measurement of that, and that's going to handle all the studio effects or AI effects and stuff like that. I'm curious to know what you think. Let me know in the comments section below.
Now, if you saw my review of the Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Ultra, the Book 4 Pro, and you know I'm not a big fan of the keyboards. I felt that it was a bit shallow in terms of the key travel, the overall tactility was decent, and the typing was okay. I wouldn't say it was the best typing experience. There are better ones out there. Now, having used this 14-inch Galaxy Book Edge for the past couple of days, I gotta say it's not the worst I've ever used. It still has that shallow key travel that I'm not crazy about, but it just seems a little bit better, a tad better than the Galaxy Book 4 14-inch that we looked at, and I would say that is a good improvement here overall. Now, it does have a multi-stage backlight. I will say this, having the light gray keys here against the light finish on this unit makes it a little bit difficult sometimes to see the backlight in a dark room or a dimly lit environment. I kind of wish they would have used darker keys, but that's what you get here. And I would say the touchpad is actually pretty good as well. Very responsive when it comes to scrolling, doing all the gestures, but I would have liked to have seen a haptic touchpad, kind of like what we saw on the Surface Laptop 7 that's done by Sensel. Was really good. Would have been great on here as well, but we don't get that. And again, we're spending $1,350. I would like to see a haptic touchpad at this point. That's something we get. That was a big pet peeve of mine on the Intel-based units we saw earlier this year. Let's talk about performance, and this is running the Snapdragon X Elite, the X1E 8100 chipset, and we've seen this before, and as you can see, the single-core, multi-core performance is very good. You'll see the difference between battery and when you're plugged in. There is a slight difference between the two, not a huge difference, but a difference nonetheless. Now, the integrated Adreno graphics are okay, and like I said in the other videos, it's not going to be quite as good as the Intel Arc graphics or the AMD Radeon 780M that we've been seeing here in 2024. So just keep that in mind. Now, when I ran the Cinebench 2024, it got a 120 in terms of the single-core score. That's excellent. And we got a 709 multi-core. And I was hoping for a little bit higher, and I think we'll see that on the 16-inch, which has a better processor, a little bit more powerful processor. We'll talk about that when I get that one into the studio. But I would say overall, for everyday use, doing Microsoft Office, email, web browsing, this has certainly fit the bill. And it runs not only efficiently, but it's running cool and quiet, and that's exactly what we want to see. Now, I want to be very clear. If you're buying this to do games on, I would say don't buy it, at least not yet, because not all the games are going to work. It's been pretty much hit or miss. Video editors, I wouldn't buy this to do video editing. That's been pretty much hit or miss. There's been some hiccups on that. Hopefully some updates will fix that. We'll talk about that soon in the upcoming full review. But if you are just sticking to the basics here, you're going to have a very good experience. It's where you try to run certain kind of highly specialized apps, or where you're running into drivers that are not working for old peripherals such as printers. Remember, I couldn't get the colorimeter to work because of a driver issue, not an emulation issue. And speaking of emulation, Microsoft has really made a lot of strides here with the Prism that they're using. Although it's not perfect, it is head and shoulders above what they were using in previous iterations with Windows and ARM. So it's really heading in the right direction. And I think with a series series of updates, and as time goes on, things will get better. But if you stick to the basics, Microsoft Office, email, web browsing, consuming media, this is going to be a very good experience. You're going to get great battery life. You're going to be running this in a very efficient manner. It's never going to overheat, and you will not have any fan noise to contend with. And that is something we've been wanting to see from Windows for a very, very long time. Now, another area where I'm very impressed with is the battery life. Now, as I told you earlier in the other videos I did on these, the battery life has been phenomenal, especially on that Surface Laptop 7 that I looked at, 20 plus hours. I got over 15 hours on the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7X. And here I'm getting over 12 hours on that same test. Now, keep in mind, it is a smaller battery and it did really well. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind also is that it's an AMOLED display that tends to use a little bit more power. So I think this is a vast improvement over any Intel-based unit we saw from the Samsung Galaxy Book line. And having 12 hours, almost 12 and a half hours, I should say, has been really good. And I would expect it maybe even get better. Who knows, depending on what you're doing. And that's the other thing you should keep in mind. Everybody's use case is a little bit different, so your mileage may vary. So I would say the overall takeaway is a vast improvement in terms of battery life with this unit. Now, for those wondering how I ran the test, I looped a 4K video that I streamed over YouTube via Wi-Fi until it went to zero battery. I started at 100%, drained it to zero, and the numbers were what we saw. I ran them all under the same conditions. I ran all 6 laptops that have the Snapdragon here in the same conditions, same testing conditions, and this got almost 12 and a half hours. And I ran it with the 120 hertz enabled at 40% screen brightness for those wondering. Now, when it comes to the audio, the Samsung Galaxy Book4 Edge sports quad speakers that are AKG tuned and has Dolby Atmos to help with the spatial audio. Now, let's compare it to the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7X with its quad speakers and Dolby Atmos that we looked at earlier today or yesterday by the time you're seeing this. And you let me know what you think in the comment section below. Now, I'll start with the Yoga Slim 7X, followed by the Samsung Galaxy Book4 Edge. Now, let's give them a listen. Okay, let's bring it all home. 72 hours in with the Samsung Galaxy Book4 Edge. There's a lot to like here. I like the improvements over the Intel-based variants we saw earlier this year. We're looking at a gorgeous 14-inch 2.8K dynamic AMOLED 2X display with a variable refresh rate up to 120 hertz. We're seeing good single, good multi-core performance here, running cool and quiet for everyday tasks. That sapphire blue finish is absolutely beautiful. It shows hardly any fingerprints. That's a big plus. It's got a premium build and design. It's got excellent battery life, and it's thin and light, easy to take with you on the go. Now, the negatives here, you're looking at Adreno graphics, which are not quite as good as the Intel Arc graphics or the AMD Radeon 780M graphics we have seen here in 2024. Now, x86 apps have been a bit hit or miss so far. Gaming has been a bit of a hit or miss. Some driver issues for older peripherals such as printers and the like. Missing some AI features at launch. The most notable one, of course, is recall. And I would like to see a haptic touchpad here. We don't get it, and it would take it to another level. Sensil, if you're watching, maybe reach out to Samsung. This would take it to another level. But that being said, using this for the past 72 hours as a daily driver has been excellent. And if you stick to the basics, web browsing, email, consuming media, doing office work, you're going to have an excellent experience. experience. It's going to run cool, it's going to run quiet, and you're going to get real good longevity. With that beautiful display here, it's going to be an excellent experience. I guarantee it. Again, I can't wait to bring you my full review. I have a lot more testing, so stay tuned. That is coming very soon.
So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. And don't forget to check out my website, amdtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew, and I'll see you in the next video.